Lesson 2, Angles of Rotation. Use that small line grid. This is just a review. The origin for XY axis is going to be the very middle of the graph. Quadrant 1 is going to be when X is positive and Y is positive. Quadrant 2, moving counterclockwise, is when X is negative and Y is positive. Quadrant 3 is when both X and Y are negative. And quadrant 4 is when X is positive and Y is negative. So we're going to start talking about angles of rotation. First thing with angles of rotation, standard position. Standard position is when the vertex is at the origin. So if I were to draw standard position, vertex is at the origin, and one ray is on the positive x-axis. This is called your initial side. Now when I'm going to draw angles in the xy axis, if I were to draw this side right here, this would be called my terminal side, the other ray forming the angle. Now for each angle that is drawn on the xy axis, if there is, it's always starting on your initial side, and if there's an arrow pointing counterclockwise, this would be a positive measurement, angle measurement. Now, again, you start at your initial side, and if I go clockwise, this represents a negative degree measurement. The angle of rotation is the rotating terminal side. Your terminal side, right here, this can be in any quadrant. As long as your initial side is on the x-axis, your terminal side can be anywhere representing this information. Now, if I'm going to be using the x or the xy axis to talk about angles of rotation, if I'm starting at my initial side, if I move up to my positive y-axis, this would be 90 degrees. And then if I go to the left-hand side of my x-axis, this would be a rotation of 180 degrees. If I go to my negative, this would be 270 degrees, negative y-axis. And if I do one full rotation, that's 360 degrees. So that's my positive angles. That's if I'm moving counterclockwise from my initial side. If I'm moving clockwise, my negative y-axis would be at negative 90 degrees. My x-axis would be at negative 180 degrees. My positive y-axis would be negative 270 degrees. That's if I'm moving clockwise. So if I want to draw the angle, when you're drawing the angle, this can be estimated, as long as you know which quadrant the terminal side is. You should always start off by drawing your initial side on the positive x-axis. 300 is in between 270 and 360. So my terminal side should be in the fourth quadrant. Now you have to make sure to draw your angle of rotation. So I know that I'm having a positive angle and it's in the fourth quadrant. This would be an estimation of 300 degrees. Negative 150. Always start by drawing your initial side. This would be negative 90. This would be negative 180. So it's in between those two. So my terminal side will be in the third quadrant here. And when I draw my angle of rotation, I have to move it clockwise. Negative 300. This would be in between negative 270 and negative 360. So my terminal side will be in the first quadrant. And I draw it clockwise to my terminal side. 900. Whenever you draw one full circle, that's 360 degrees. So if I want to see, if I minus 360 from this, that would be 540. And if I minus 360 from that, I would get 180. So that means there's two full circles. Now if I'm drawing just the angle of 180, that's going to be a straight line. And it's a positive, so I'm going to be going counterclockwise. So I start on my initial side, I move one full circle around, that gets me to 540. Then I move another circle around, that gets me to 180. Now just to draw the 180 degrees, I stop at my terminal side at 180. So I could keep on drawing multiple circles if the angle is large enough. 210. Again, you draw your initial side on the x-axis. My terminal side will be in between 180 and 270. And it's going to be counterclockwise because it's a positive angle. 1020. Whenever you have a number that's greater than 360, you always should first subtract circles to see where the terminal side is. So if I take 360 from 1020, I have 660. And I take 360 away from that, I have 300. So my terminal side will be in the fourth quadrant because it's in between 270 and 360. Start on my initial side. One full circle will get me to 660. Another full circle will get me to 300. And then my final rotation goes to the terminal side. Co-terminal angles. These are angles in standard position with the same terminal side. So if I go back, if you look at your 300 and your 1020, they both have the terminal side at the same spot. The only difference here is that 1020 has two extra circles beyond 300. These two angles would be coterminal angles because they have the same terminal side. That means even though 1020 went around two more sides, it's still the same side ending at 300. So these two would be coterminal angles. So when you're finding coterminal angles, you always want to add or subtract 360. So you either want to take away your full circle or add a full circle to it. Here I want to find a positive and negative number. So I'm going to take 40 plus 360. That will give me a positive coterminal angle, which would be 400. And I'm also going to take 40 minus 360, which will give me negative 320. Now here I have both a positive and negative coterminal angle. So if I'm looking at 500, now 500 is greater than 360. So I'm first going to take 500, subtract 360. And this will be one coterminal angle. And since it's asking for a positive and negative coterminal angle, I'm going to take 140, subtract 360. Because since 500 is coterminal angle is 140, I can subtract or add 360 to 140, and they'll also be coterminal angles. So 140 minus 360 would give me negative 220. So you have a positive and negative coterminal angle. Negative 120. I'm going to take negative 120 plus 360 and negative 120 minus 360. So I can get both of my positive and negative coterminal angles. I have negative 480 degrees and also positive 240 degrees. Those are coterminal angles. Reference angles is the positive acute angle formed by the terminal side and the x-axis. If I'm looking for my reference angle of 150, the first thing I want to do is to draw out where 150 is. If I'm drawing out 150, since 150 is between 90 and 180, this would be 150 degrees. My reference angle is always the angle formed by my terminal side here with the x-axis. So I want to find out what is this angle measurement. Now, one straight line is 180. So to figure out what my reference angle would be here, if I want to find out this green part, I'm going to do 180 minus 150. Because 180 is the full straight line. If I take away this angle, I'm left with the green angle, which would be 30 degrees. Negative 130 degrees. So first, you should always draw out your angle measurement. It will be in the third quadrant because it's between negative 90 and negative 180. So here I'm looking for this angle measurement. Your reference angle should always be a positive angle. So again, the angle I'm looking for and the angle given form one straight line. So if I have this straight line, if I want to get rid of the negative 130, I'm going to do 180 minus 130. Because 180 is the full straight line, and if I take away the 130, that will give me the green angle, which would be 50 degrees. Your reference angle should always be positive. Theta is equal to 280 degrees. So first draw out your angle. Now I'm looking for this blue angle right here. So one full circle is 360. So if I'm looking at a full circle, if I have 360, and I want to take away this red portion, I'm going to subtract 280. That will give me my blue angle there. 360 minus 280, my reference angle here would be 80 degrees. 105. That's going to be in the second quadrant. So again, I have a straight line. My reference angle is always formed with my terminal side and the x-axis. So here again, I take 180 minus 105, which would give me 75 degrees. On your notes in between those two sides, I also want you to include 200. If I'm looking for my reference angle, given 200, first I'm going to draw this out. It's going to be in the third quadrant. And here I'm looking for my x-axis and my terminal side. I'm looking for this red angle. Now my whole angle here is 200. So I want to get rid of this on top. So that's forming one straight line. So here I'm going to take 200 and subtract 180 to find my reference angle, which would be 20 degrees. Your homework is on page 939, 2 through 16, 26 through 40, all even numbers.